So thank you very much, Rachel. It's beautiful. When I hear this scripture read, my immediate thoughts go to Godspell. And you know when they go boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, chick, and the people, they separating the goats and the sheep, and he's telling, that was like my first time when he's actually telling the stories and the parables of Jesus. This passage is often called the Judgment of Nations. Verses 31 to 46 have been called the parable of the sheep and the goats because of its parabolic twists and turns. Just as a parable surprises us with a sudden curve as it comes across us, Jesus surprises the righteousness and the unrighteousness with his judgment. However, if you look at it really carefully, like I said, I came and thought of it always as the parable of the sheep and the goats. But it's more of an eschatological end of time vision. And I didn't think of that until I was just looking at this passage and reading it deeper, instead of just looking at the least of these. And Terry helped me to see that. Because the least of these is the title of the mission we go down to. But when you look at it at a context, it gives you a really much more broader picture. Note the context between Jesus' first and second comings. In his first coming, Jesus emptied himself, coming into this world as a servant, as described in Philippians 2, 5 to 11. He was conceived by an unmarried woman. He was born in a stable, cradled in a manger. As a man, he had no place to lay his head. And there was purpose in these humble beginnings. God always has a purpose for us. Always. Always God has a purpose, and God had a purpose for where Jesus was born. He was born so that he might dwell with us, full of grace and truth, and draw us to himself. In the second coming, however, the time for wooing and winning will be past. There'll be no further purpose that will be served by humble circumstances. Jesus, therefore, will come in all of his glory with all of his angels. He will be sitting on a throne with all of the nations. I love in those verses that he is referred to the Son of Man. He is referred to shepherd. He is referred to a king. And he is referred to as Lord. And furthermore, Jesus sits on that throne. He identifies God as his Father, and he pronounces the judgment on the world. And he has this part that's struck my heart, the humanitarian emphasis. Feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, welcoming the stranger, clothing the naked, visiting the sick and the prisoners. And it all grows out of the disciples' commitment to Christ, the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. And that part of that scripture was what our founder of the least of these heard. Steve, who I'll show you, we're going to go into some slides here from my trip. Steve Hall heard God's voice coming through when he was on an airplane. I've never actually heard God's voice, but Steve Hall heard God's voice. So sit with me as we kind of go through these slides, and I'm going to be nodding to Barry of when to turn, because it's just easier. Sometimes the little clicker doesn't click. So we worked it out, so we're just going to be nodding to him. But the least of these ministries, this is what we use up here along with the, you see the map of Dominican Republic, and holding the rice and the beans. We give rice, beans, eggs, and manna packs. And amor and esperanza is love and hope, which is what they call themselves down in the Dominican Republic, where our staff is. Thank you. This first one shows them coming to get eggs and beans and rice. They come to the little churches We are the deliverers for the 1 week we're down there when our team's down there, but we have 5 on our staff that are down there the whole year. They live down there, and they serve rice, beans, eggs. They do put them on their head to walk. They come in any kind of container. They just get containers from themselves. But what is so wonderful about all these pictures is you'll see, even though they are very, very poor, and the poverty is very, very high, they are so happy. This is Steve Hall. Steve Hall was the founder of the Least of These. He's the one who heard God's voice come through him on an airplane. Wherever Steve would go, children would follow him. He was like the Pied Piper down there. They would all just gather around him and say, Mr. Steve, Mr. Steve, Mr. Steve, Americano, Americano, Americano. And they would just gather around him. His story is when he was down there at a mission before the Least of These was founded, he was eating a sandwich because teams go down there, and usually for lunch we have just sandwiches on the work site. And he was eating a sandwich, and a lady came up to him with a baby in her arms. And she looked at Steve, and she pulled a translator to Steve, and she said, I am very hungry. I will give you my baby if you give me your sandwich. So somebody said that to Steve, and from that, he heard God's voice say, no longer let that happen. Feed my starving children. And that's how the Least of These was developed. I was very honored. My first trip was July of 2018, and I went with Steve. That was the last trip he went on, and he died about 2 years ago. His wife is still active in the ministry, but from a little voice that he heard saying, feed my starving children, a ministry was formed that helps many, many people. These are some of the little kids that we help, and they're always, hugging you, and they're just so happy, even though they don't have a lot to eat. This is the Least of These truck. A lot of times, mostly it's adults coming. We sit on the back of the truck to go from Bate to Bate because these are the roads. I mean, they're not a lot of roads there. It's very, sandy, and this is Pastor Ramon right in the front there. He is a pastor, and he goes along with the mission because not only do we help to give out food when we do the distribution, we also give out a little bit of message of who Jesus is and how much we love Jesus, how much Jesus helps us, and then we share the gospel along with the food. So again, you have the 2 parts. You have your spiritual part, and then you have your physical feeding part. This is Danielle. This is Ricardo's little boy. Ricardo is the manager. He was the one who spoke at when we gathered a few people back in the parlor on Thursday. And he's really cute. He's now 18 months. He's a little bigger than that. But he's a doll. One of the things that I attribute to the Least of These is when I went down in July of 2018, the youth leader of Westminster said, Jackie, I had gone through a hard time in 2017, and she said, Jackie, I want you to come with our youth group that went down. So I came with the youth group, and that was my first experience. It was in July, so it was really, really hot. So that was the problem. That's why I mainly go down in January now. But I went in July, and Stephanie was just a wonderful, wonderful person. 2 years ago, she died very suddenly. She's 40 years old. Her daughter was a senior in high school. So right after that happened, I had talked to Ricardo, and we went to a person who does rocking chairs, because Stephanie loved to rock when she'd go down there. So we got this local person to make 4 rocking chairs in memory of Stephanie to give to the Least of These, so they're on the porch where we stay. And we all just, sometimes when you have downtime, it's nice to go and sit. And the place where we stay sits up high, so you can see the Caribbean Sea from up high, and it is beautiful. But those rockers is a sign that when you're down there and you think of a need or think of something that will help out, they are willing to take your ideas and run with it. And that was very special to me. This is Ani, the little baby's mom, and that's Ricardo. Ricardo was here on Thursday. This is Pijing. Pijing is another ministry that we help support. The least of these help support. He runs like an after-school breakfast program, or before-school breakfast program. And so we give him some of our rice, beans, and eggs, and there's a cooperative with it. And he is always smiling again. He always is smiling, is like just a wonderful, wonderful person and wonderful foundation to work with. Like I said, the older people are the people, they don't run, but they come up to you and they give the best hugs. Because you don't see them for maybe like, just once a year when you go down there. But they remember you coming. And this is Esmeralda, and she just got so excited when she saw me. She said, I gotta see you, I gotta give you a hug. And she's about this big. One of the projects we did in our team in January was we put a sidewalk around. This is our warehouse where we store our rice, beans, eggs, where the office is. It's a 2-story, eventually way down the road, if God determines that to be a thing, that it will house the mission teams. Right now it's our warehouse, and we did some really big outdoor improvements so it would fit in with the neighborhood by, they had to chop up the old sidewalk, put new sidewalk down, and this fellow right here has worked, he's probably 65, and he's one of the strongest men I've ever seen, just get into the cement. And he just works so hard. Again, he doesn't speak a lick of English, and I don't, and so when we talk, Lindo and I, we do a lot of sign language. These are some of the eggs. Ariel is one of our drivers down there. These are the eggs. They go right onto the truck, just like that. Go right onto the truck, and they don't break any eggs. That is so crazy. They put all those eggs on, not one gets broken. And they get eggs, in the food distribution, 1 egg for every person in their family for that week. Now this is not their total food, this is a supplemental thing, but a lot of times the supplemental food takes them to where they need to be for when they can afford to get more food. These two are Miguel and Ariel, they're part of our staff down there. Just sweet folk. This was our team this year. And we were just having a fun time because we brought 3 electricians down, and they finally have outdoor lights, which really makes a difference in some neighborhoods. And so we had gone there to like do a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, down to 1, and then the lights came on, and so then somebody says, well, do a funny picture. You know how they always say, do a funny picture. So this is our team doing a crazy funny picture, and you just become like a family when you go down there. We're eating sugarcane. Sugarcane is everywhere there. And you just pop it off, and Pastor Ramon had whittled these for us and gave us these, and you just chomp on it, and it's just like, sweet sugar, but you don't feel the crystals, it's just the juice that comes out. So that was part of that. Again, the children just gather around you. They just kind of run up to you and just, want you to say hi. This was at Pastor Ramon's. Here's the electrician putting in the lights, and we're working on the concrete for the sidewalk. That's Craig, he's up at there. They were so funny. This was a father-son. This was their first time down there. They went last January, and they were just hilarious. They were like Laurel and Hardy of the electricians. They would be, doing different things, and they say, hey, Dad, I need this, and I need this, and they, chuck things around, and it was like, oh my goodness, they neat people. This is their vacation Bible school. There must have been 300 kids pushed, and they loved every single minute of. Part of when we go down as a team is not only construction and food distribution, but usually we do 1 or 2 days of vacation Bible school down there. And this was, the word gets out that they're coming and they're singing songs, and just just so joyful. Another one of the projects we did was we actually did wash people's hair, showing kind of like Jesus washing feet, but this time it was hair. And that was very, very special and very kind of a new thing that we hadn't done before. Like I said, Ricardo and the group are really into trying new things. Kendi was our translator the first year I went down in 2018, and he wanted to introduce me to his fiance, as if he has a fiance and he's getting married in the fall. And so he brought her to meet me, and he's really good at English. He's from Haiti, so he's kind of in a place where he doesn't want to go back to Haiti, but he only has Haitian papers. Dominican Republic won't accept him, and so he's in between. So he helps us out sometimes when we go down with teams. He goes into Santo Domingo to do a little work, sort of under the table, so he can get some money. It's been very interesting to hear the whole process of Haiti and Dominican Republic. We do have one day where we go into the river and into swim in the Caribbean Sea. This was one of our days with part of our team and one of our workers. This is Ani. Ani is Ricardo's wife, and there's Danielle. He's bigger now. There he is again. We go out to dinner. He's the one that kind of leads the construction projects, and he is just such a strong man. Moo is in the back. That's his assistant, and he doesn't speak any English at all. Alonzo speaks a little bit, but every time I go down, Alonzo is like a big teddy bear. He just gives you the biggest hugs, and he smiles so big. This was the first year they actually got a cement mixer and didn't do it on the ground because there was so much cement work. Filling up a bucket, you wouldn't think that filling up a bucket for cement would be a part of a project, but it was, because at first they were just using these little teeny buckets to fill it up, and the hose wasn't reaching. Well, one of the members of our team, Michael, says, Ricardo, let's go get a hose that will reach from your water source to this big bucket so you don't, we were filling up with little teeny tiny buckets. And as somebody said at the 9:30 service, I would probably be still filling up those buckets now to get that amount of water. Those were the little buckets that we were using. The man says, I will contribute a hose. And so, you never know what's going to happen on each of the teams that you go on. Then we're filling them up, and the hose wasn't reaching, but when Michael got the hose, it reached. This is Lindo. Lindo has been working with concrete and working as a hard worker, and with his machete, he has a huge machete that he takes. He will divide a bag of cement that's so heavy into two by putting a board like this, putting the cement like this, and going like this with the machete. It divides into two, so it makes it less work. They figure out all the ways that it can make it less. Miguel and his family, he just had a baby. Joanna had the baby in beginning of March. So it was really, they sent a picture, real sweet little picture. This is Salvador. Salvador is somewhere between 100 and 110 years old. He is at a bete. He comes and he walks in there with his cane and hunched over like that. And he said to me, when we were talking and kind of smiling and everything, he says, salsa, let's do salsa. So here I am doing the salsa with a 110-year-old fella who is just as strong as an ox, and we're just dancing in this little teeny church, and Ariel behind it is just shaking and saying, oh, Jacki, Jacki. There's the finished sidewalk and the electric lights. It really made a huge difference in the neighborhood where this warehouse was built. The warehouse was completed in like 2015, I think, and they've done some things, but this was really kind of the end of the finishing of the outdoor part of it, which was kind of fun. This was all the team that we have there. It was just a wonderful, wonderful week. We have folks come from Georgia. We have folks from Frederick, that just kind of, you meet kind of down in Santo Domingo. You find your way down there, and then we become a team, and it's just a perfect week. And then we're going to look at Kendi's house again, out in the middle of Barona. And there's Barona and the team sitting up there. And there's the warehouse with the lights and the sidewalk. So it's a combination of feeding ministry, project ministry, vacation Bible school, and then, as we say, to be as flexible as you can, it's serving those that are the least of these. Now, I wanted to end with this song. This is a song that kind of came to me of when I was in youth group. It was with the Young Life. If any of you have heard of Young Life, it's called Here Comes Jesus. And if you know it, you could sing with me. Here comes Jesus, see him walking on the water. He'll lift you up and he'll help you to stand. Oh, here comes Jesus. He's the master of the waves that roll. Here comes Jesus. Let him take your hand. Oh, here comes Jesus. See him feed the hungry people, and he'll give you his aid. Oh, here comes Jesus. He's a great physician. Here comes Jesus. Don't be afraid. Oh, here comes Jesus. See him walking up to Calvary. He's going to die for you and me. Oh, here comes Jesus. He's the ransom for the guilty one. Here comes Jesus to set us free.